So you want to fund a laundromat startup? We're going to dive into this and more on this episode. I get many calls. Maybe you've seen me on somebody's podcast or just you found me on YouTube University and you're looking to get into the laundromat business. It seems like a very sexy business where, well, it's a boring business, but it's sexy in the way that you don't need much manpower at the location. Maybe a couple of employees can cover shifts, one or two at a time. It's more of a semi-absentee business model. I get the appeal. We're always looking for ways to leverage, and many of us have maybe a W-2 or a corporate job or whatever, and so owning a laundromat can make sense in that capacity, right? And there's also some good tax write-offs if you're buying equipment. And owning a business makes sense in general because the tax code was really written for small business owners, not W-2 employees. So the problem with what you're encountering most likely, because I do several of these calls a week, is that you're looking for laundromats, but you're having trouble finding ones that actually can provide financials because many of them are coin operated or they just don't really do good books, and somehow they're just breaking even or showing a little bit of a profit, right? Well, the problem on their end is either they have to find a cash buyer or do seller financing. If they're not willing to do either or can't find a cash buyer, it's going to be very difficult to finance with SBA financing because we look at 3 years of the seller's tax returns year to date and a balance sheet, right? And so it's hard to justify getting enough proceeds from SBA loans. So many of you then say, hey, it's hard to find locations. I'm in this market and it would be great to do a startup. So what does financing a laundromat startup look like? Can you do it with SBA financing, even if you have no prior experience? And the answer is yes. Okay, you have to have a really good business plan and good credit scores. And ideally, you have good outside income, right? Like you have good W-2 income or own another business. And generally, if so, can we structure a deal? If you can put together a good business plan and you have the financial capabilities, then generally, yes, you can get SBA laundromat financing for startups, even with no prior experience. Now, many banks are going to limit the loan to cost, right? They're not going to fund 90%. They might fund anywhere from 75, generally 70 to 85% on a startup is what generally you'll see. Now, the SOP or the SBA created the SOP, which is basically kind of the underwriting guidelines, and it changes all the time. And then banks kind of interpret it themselves, and they use what they call prudent lending. And so that's why you could take a deal to one bank, and they say no. You take it to another, they say no. The third one says yes. They all have different appetites and risk tolerances, and usually there's a credit manager that oversees that department for the SBA loans, and maybe they have bad luck with laundromats, or maybe they love laundromats, right? Like you never know, right, until you get inside. So what we do, we work as SBA loan brokers, so we're like an advisor, and we have relationships with BDOs at these different lending institutions. So they're basically bankers that specialize in SBA financing, and then we're generally working with PLP lenders, which are preferred. It's the preferred lender program for the SBA. So they underwrite in-house for the SBA 7A. We don't have to ship it to SBA. So is it possible to do a startup? Yes. Generally, though, what you'll find, even with when you're not buying the building, is that to build out a laundromat is quite expensive. Most of the project costs that I look at are anywhere from 800 to like 1.4 million. So understanding that, and you'd have to bring investors in or figure out the capital stack and the structure. But is SBA financing available for these startups? Yes, but you have to put together the plan. Usually what the people that are on top of things do, the equipment manufacturers have really good demographic and studies, and they can actually help you from all that, foot traffic and, help you create projections, pro forma stuff, which you're going to need to bolt into the business plan. And then you have to build out 3 years of projections, the first 2 years, month by month. Then you also need a reputable contractor, etc. But I do believe that there's no better financing than SBA, especially for these startups, because you can get the highest leverage. And anytime a loan amount's over $500,000 and there's a collateral shortfall, without real estate, there's always going to be a collateral shortfall. they have to look for additional collateral on loan amounts over 500,000. So if you have a primary residence or rental property, they could go after that to put a second lien on those properties, unless you're in a like Texas, for example. They have rules or laws against doing things like that, but not too many states do. So loan amounts over, just be aware of that. Is there other financing options? Yes, potentially a 504 could work in certain circumstances. There's alternative financing. Perhaps you have an old retirement account that's eligible to do a ROBS rollover. So there's ways to structure deals. Obviously, the manufacturers can finance the equipment. So there's ways of structuring, but ultimately, if you want a 10-year term, generally SBA is going to be the best financing, because a lot of people say, hey, I already got 100% financing on the equipment. Well, if most of the lenders in the SBA world are going to want to do all of it, not just the build out of the location, right? They're going to want to have a UCC filing in first position against all of it. And even if you get a slightly better rate on the equipment, being able to have a 10-year term and be able to get the other proceeds with the SBA wrapped into it, like working capital and all the build out, it's usually the best option. So anyway, if you have laundromat questions, or if you're looking to buy a business, fund a business, we help people find and fund their ideal business. Just go to bookwithbo.com. See you on the next episode.
Meet Bo Eckstein, the driving force behind Business Ownership Coach, unlocking the path to business ownership. Visit www.businessownershipcoach.com. Thrive with Business Ownership Coach.
Hey guys, Bo Eckstein here. If you enjoyed what you saw, please subscribe to this channel. We talk all things financing. I've been in the lending industry for over 20 years, and I'm happy to answer your questions and provide great content.